Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Random Chatter Reviews. This is our first show back in a while. Actually, we've been off for a couple weeks. Super Bowl happened, and life got in the way, but we are back. And the good news is there is tons of new stuff to cover. I think we've all seen our fair share of new things on different
We had to
streaming
cut
platforms
stuff
and
out
so
of the
forth.
list today.
Yeah, we do this sometimes. Not very often, but we do.
We've even,
sometimes.
by the way, had some news. Some legitimate news. We're not going to cover it in this episode, but so for those who have been wondering, we will be bringing news coverage back here pretty shortly.
Yeah. Well, let's get right into it because we got some really good stuff here. First up, we don't cover a lot of these lately, but network shows. There's a new network show that Tim's been watching called Endgame.
I didn't know they still had those.
On NBC, I think, Tim.
What's a network show? Yeah, ABC? NBC.
NBC,
I think. Yep. So this is Endgame. Now I have not seen it myself, Tim. You have. I get the feeling from the trailers it's kind of a lot like Blacklist.
Yeah, there is kind of a Blacklist vibe to this. So this is Marina Baccarin's new project. They just did the first episode, the pilot, last week. We were thoroughly impressed with it. Really, really great. Very, very compelling story.
What can you tell us about it? Because the little teaser
awesome.
was like kind of artistically, stylistically done, and it looked silly.
Yeah.
But the teaser looked silly. I'm not saying the show did. So tell us about the show.
So they and it doesn't spoil anything because they really established the premise pretty solidly within the first few minutes of the episode. Basically, she is a international arms dealer. She kind of like sits behind terrorist and criminal organizations, and it basically unrolls that she is kind of the mastermind behind them. You've got your kingpin, but then you've got someone behind them who's actually, controlling things. She gets captured, and that's basically how the episode starts. Is that she's brought into the U.S. And into this into a secret site, and there's like the director of the FBI there, and Secretary of Homeland Security, and somebody else, and they're like, hey, so we got you. Big time criminal mastermind. We got you. So you have to give us everything now because you're under arrest. And she's like, yeah, no. You think just because I'm in here doesn't mean I don't control anything. I do. And it then goes to outside of this situation and all sorts of things that she had set in motion that are happening that she orchestrated. And it's amazing. And she knows like everything on everybody. New person walks into the room and she's like, yeah, so how's your marriage to, Bill? And I hear things aren't going too well. And, how are your two kids? And she'll name the two kids. Like she knows everything about everyone who walks into the room. It's like mind blowing.
Interesting.
So really great. It's a great role for her. Looking forward to where the series takes us.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all like her. I mean, she's been in some great roles we've seen over the years, and I'm glad to see her back in a show again. But I haven't seen it, and I want to because what I've seen online looked pretty good for it. But it does. The more you even describe that, the more it feels just like the Blacklist. Because I mean, the main character in that show is kind of the same thing. He's captured. He knows everything. They have that show morphed into something else over the years, but he still had all kinds of contacts and did stuff and run stuff, and it seems all powerful. Have you seen Blacklist? Have you watched that?
Have I? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The first few seasons.
So what? How does this compare and contrast to that? Is it different? Is it different enough? Is it the same?
It's different. You get a similar vibe to it, but it's definitely the storyline itself is very different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'll probably give it a shot because I like her, and spy type stuff seems fun. So yeah, I'll probably watch that.
Yeah. It's great.
Okay. Next up, a show I know I've watched. I don't know if either of you have watched this yet, but we're covering this on Media Chatter pretty soon, the replacement show for Movie Chatter if you haven't been keeping up with the network. But this is Inventing Anna on Netflix.
I'm about halfway through.
Okay. And
I have not seen it.
Started. Okay. So this is the show based on the true story of Anna Sorokin, who is a fake German heiress, I guess is the best way to describe it.
Might be German, might be Russian.
Episode, yeah. Well, she was posing as a fake German heiress, or a real German heiress, but fake. The first episode, I think, was tough to get through, but after that, the show picks up speed and picks up the intrigue, and I was fully invested after that. I heard it was really good, so I gave it the second episode to kind of see what was going on. Because the first episode, you're like, okay, you're telling the story, but I mean, Anna wasn't even really in that episode very much at all. It was kind of setting everything up. But I've been really enjoying this. I finished it now. It's full of intrigue. It intrigues me more because it's based on a true story, and you can find the articles online and read what was really going on and stuff. And every episode starts with the disclaimer where it's, either on a billboard in the opening shot or chiseled into a wall. It looks like it's part of the scene, but it says, everything you're about to see is completely true except for the stuff we made up. So that's like, okay, well, is it real or not? But I've been really enjoying it. Eric, you're halfway through. What are your feelings on it so far?
I'm about halfway through. I'm have to sit down and do the actual math. I'm going to say the first two episodes are a bit of a slow burn. The pilot episode, you're right, it's a slow burn. Not bad by any stretch. Just a little slow. The second episode, I wasn't really hooked yet. The third episode is where I started to really get more interested in it. I like it. I like it a lot. I don't love it, but I like it a lot.
Okay.
The good news for me personally is each episode has been getting better. So if it continues that trend, I will have loved it by the end. But yeah, okay. It's good. It's well written. The acting is good. Julia Garner from Ozark, a multi-Emmy award-winning actress, plays the lead. And her accent just, it was like nails on chalkboard to me.
Yeah. And I don't know if that's purposely done that way. I don't know if that's the way the real character talks.
Right. So this isn't a spoiler, but you find out later, like by maybe the third episode or so, that the character was originally born near Moscow. I say it's not a spoiler because at this point in the story, it doesn't really matter a whole lot. And I don't think from what I've watched so far, it doesn't end up meaning anything. So not a spoiler. But so she's from Germany, but she was originally born in Moscow. So like maybe it's a kind of a blend of the two. I lived in Germany for a while and I've heard a lot of Germans speak English and none of them sounded anywhere near this. Like it took me a long time to figure out what country they were trying to say she was from because I didn't read up on any of the background stuff for it.
Okay.
So yeah, I had such a hard time and maybe I don't think a lot of people have this issue. It might just be my autism or something, but like I kind of hooked on that and I had a really hard time getting past it. That being said, the acting is phenomenal. And while I don't get the accent, the accent doesn't work.
Yeah, I didn't get that either.
Does stick with it. She's consistent with that accent. So she performs whatever that's supposed to be. She performs that well. I don't even think it's a real accent.
I seem to think it was maybe an accent of the country she was supposed to be from, i.e. Germany, mixed with the accent of a, I don't know, young socialite that has no concept of the real world and a little aloof and this and that kind of all mixed in. So that to me, it spoke to me that way that that's what it meant, but it was still hard to listen to.
And for me, I think
it was not
bugged me probably more than it'll bug most people. But so that aside, it's a good show. It's the writing is good. The casting was phenomenal. I forget who the other lead actress is, but she was in Veep on HBO.
Yeah. Yep. It's good to the point where now that I've seen it, I kind of want to dig into the real story and kind of get more information about what really took
And I'm
place.
definitely curious as to where all this is going, and where it ended up for real. So like the hook was effective. So I'm happy with that. So the point is, I would recommend it. It's got a strong recommendation for me, even though I think I would recommend it more strongly than I personally am enjoying it, because I believe it's a little better. Like I realize I've got this little mental glitch that's hooking me on this one thing that I'm having a hard time getting past, but I know that it's just me.
Sure. Yep. And we're going to give this more thorough talk through on Media Chatter too.
Which, by the way, again, as you said, Movie Chatter. We're going to Media Chatter, so we're going to be covering TV series in addition to movies. Maybe later even other types of media. We don't know yet. But for right now, we're doing movies and shows. Yeah.
Exactly. Next up, another series on another streaming service. This is Severance on Apple TV Plus.
I just watched that again today.
I think there's 3 episodes out now, 3 or 4. I think it's just 3. It's released weekly on Fridays, which is my preferred way to have series released on streaming, because I get to watch them weekly and not have to binge everything all at once and try to keep up. But that being said, this is I don't know how to explain it. I think I explained it to somebody once as it's kind of very feeling like being John Malkovich.
You did say that. That was to me.
When you watch it. Okay, and it's. I'm 3 episodes in, and I still really don't know what's going on. But I like it
better than being John Malkovich, because John Malkovich was just weird in a confusing way, and this is weird in a more understandable way. John Malkovich, by the way, is also going to be talked about in this episode today. Have you watched it, Tim? Okay, so it's on Apple TV Plus. It's as soon as I found out before it was released that it was being directed by, and I think in part written by Ben Stiller, I'm like, okay, yep, probably not going to watch it. Ben Stiller for me is very, very hit or miss. There's some things he's done I've loved, and most of the things he's done I have not loved. I'm convinced it might be a typo. This is so
for
far
me, when I heard it was he was attached to it. I think he's a director and also a executive producer. I think. I was intrigued because I don't dislike him. You're right, he's just hit and misses of what he's done, but I'm like, this doesn't seem like anything he'd be involved with.
I want to say this too, and I mean this as a compliment to him. I still feel emotionally like this show is so far beyond his capability. Like he's not this good, and yet, he clearly is, because he did this show. Right. The show is. It
seems so far outside of his wheelhouse that I was like, no way. There's no way.
And it's executed well. It's got that almost, I don't want to say post-apocalyptic factor, but it's got that creepy factor in there. It's not at all like a horror show, but there's that creepy psychological factor in there that's just really deep, and it's got this dark layer underneath it that is like really disturbing in a good way. Like it.
So the premise of the show, because it's such a weird concept. The premise of the show, in fact, the tagline I think is, "You're always somebody different at work." And the way this works is the severance procedure is a medical procedure, I guess, with this implant in your brain that's non-reversible. That when you go to work, you are a person that knows only about what's going on at work, and you don't know anything about the outside world. And when you leave work, you leave that part of your brain memory at work, and you have now your regular life.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I've seen the ads.
While you're at work, you don't know if you're married. You don't know if you have kids. You don't know what your hobbies are.
Yeah.
You don't even know what
you don't even know if you ate. You don't. So one of the characters brings up, like, you don't remember sleep. So you tried, because you leave, and like all of a sudden to you minutes later, It's the next thing. It's like, what do you mean? There was a weekend there? I was here 5 minutes ago. And they're like, well, try to focus on the effects of the sleep, not on the sleep itself.
At first, I'm thinking about, okay, it's you remember at work, you remember at home, whatever. But then I'm thinking to myself, okay, you watch it in a show and you're like, oh my God, these people at work, their memories of work are
100% of their existence.
That's it. Yeah, they don't remember anything, even not sleep, not eating, not
the
driving
sleep
home.
thing threw me because I've studied physiological effects of sleep and the psychological effects of sleep, and like to not experience REM sleep like that would be considered like a fatally catastrophic event. Now, physiologically, they're getting it because their body's getting it, but the psyche isn't. Yeah, like there's a lot of depth in this show too.
So your 40-hour-a-week work is all you know, and you go from one day to the next day to the Monday, from Friday to Monday without even experiencing a weekend. You never leave work. You're never.
But it's also literally all you know, so it doesn't even like. Does it bother them? Like they know there's supposed to be something outside of work, but they don't really know what it is. So that's another thing too, is the change in how these people behave as humans so far has been interesting too. But then outside of work, there's some other goings on. Like there's a conspiracy level to the overall story here too. Like something doesn't add up. There's some nefarious things going on. There's a mystery.
Something within the company and stuff without outside the company, because now Severance has looked at, there's government involvement, and there's this legal, and can we ban this here? And there's a lot going on, and I am fully entrenched in wanting to know what's going on in the story, and I still have no idea where.
And the presentation of it is so good too. We're so covering this on Media Chatter at some point. The presentation of it,
definitely,
is. So not only does it have, again, great casting. So who is it? Adam Scott, is it? From Parks and Rec?
Yes.
So he's the lead. It's got, who's the older guy? I can never remember his name. John something?
Yeah. Christopher Walken.
Right? Yeah. No, he's in it too. Yeah. And I didn't even know that till he popped up on the screen, and I'm like, oh. No, the older guy that sits in the cubicles with them. He was in Transformers, like the secret agency guy.
Yeah, hang on.
He's in a lot of comedic stuff.
John Turturro.
John Turturro. Yep. He's in it. And it's that's the other thing. The story's good, the actors are good, but the presentation of this too, the writing is phenomenal. But they sit in this great big huge massive room, and there's 4 desks, like all just crunched in the middle of the room. And they're using like these 1970s monochrome computer monitors for the work that they're doing,
with the
which doesn't even really get explained until the 3rd episode, and then after the explanation you're like, well, thank goodness they finally explained it, but now I'm even more confused.
Well, they explained it, but they didn't really explain it.
So they're just like they're being messed with.
This is what you're doing.
It's got to be what's going on. But that's the thing, like there's so much you can talk about with this show. This show is very much a water cooler, post-game sort of show. Mm-hmm. I'm loving it. Kudos to Apple TV Plus. There's a lot of shows on there that I have zero interest in, and then somebody convinces me to watch them, and they're phenomenal. Don't have a lot of stuff, but what they have is really good. So yeah, Severance, Apple TV Plus.
Right.
Other than Mythic Quest, probably my favorite Apple TV Plus show ever, and it's one of the best shows that's currently running right now.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more. Next up is a series that I thought was a movie. So I clearly have not seen this yet, but Pam and Tommy. This is the Pamela Anderson, Tommy Lee story. I guess revolving around the video that got released of their sexcapades. Yes. I'll say. So you've seen this area, all of it?
It's also being released week by week on Hulu.
Oh, it is? Okay.
I'm guessing I'm the only person who's seen it. It's a travesty that Lily James has been turned into cringeworthy Pamela Anderson, but it says a lot about her acting ability because she looks and acts and vocally sounds exactly like Pamela Anderson.
Really?
Sebastian Stan, Winter Soldier.
Yeah, which when I saw that, I was like, really?
Yeah.
He's playing Tommy Lee?
Does a phenomenal job of it. Like, so it's very much, it's an R-rated series. But it's not at all goofy. And there are some goofy and silly moments. One that in particular people have probably heard about earlier on in the series, but really the series takes itself seriously, and it talks a lot about, so the first few episodes are about Seth Rogen, who's the guy that gets the tape. He was hired to do a bunch of modifications along with a couple of other contractors to Tommy and Pam's home. And then Tommy Lee refused to pay him. And so he's paying for his, like the lumber and all of the equipment stuff out of pocket. And he's like, I'm taking out credit card payments and this and that and stuff. I can't even pay for the stuff to continue doing the work. And you haven't paid us anything yet. So he goes in and basically steals his Tommy Lee's safe and says, hey, whatever's in here, this is mine. And found the tape. So it kind of goes through the victimization of that person. And then it goes through the romance and the relationship with Tommy and Pamela and how that started up. And then it goes into the victimization of Tommy and Pamela through the release of the tape, but more so Pamela. And it's pointed out in very appropriate and well thought out ways, hey, this isn't hurting Tommy. Tommy Lee looks like a stud. Pamela Anderson looks like a prostitute through this and her appearance in Playboy from years earlier and all of this. And so when they're trying to sue Penthouse, who then released photos from the tape, the lawyers and stuff start directly targeting and attacking Pamela. And it really gets into kind of the way someone in that scenario gets treated. And it does it in a very, what's the word? Insightful way. I'm trying to think of a better way to describe it. But the point is, the series takes itself very seriously. It's well produced. It's well written. The acting is incredible. It's incredible. It's a top-notch series. The craftsmanship of it in every way, production, writing, directing, casting, everything is top-notch. I have zero complaints about it, other than maybe like early on the pacing a little bit. Well, and there was the one scene with Tommy Lee in the mirror that I could have done without. He's having a discussion with himself about whether he's actually in love with Pamela and should propose to her. And by himself, I don't mean he's talking to his face in the mirror. So that scene aside.
Oh, Motley Crue.
That scene aside, it's a phenomenal show. Like, it's absolutely A-list. Like, I thought it was going to be silly and stupid and had no interest in it, and it's very high quality.
And this is on Hulu,
yep.
You said? Okay. Yep. Something to keep on the radar. Next up, another crossover from our Media Chatter show, Reacher, which is...
Tim, you've seen this one, right?
This is a...
Oh, right.
Absolutely.
There you go. This is on, this is on Prime or on Netflix? Prime. This, I mean, we talked about it on Media Chatter. Phenomenal show. I couldn't watch this fast enough to get through this and see everything. And this was the show that really made me reconsider the whole short season of a show, like 8 episodes long, and think, I really want 22 episodes. But
they crammed a lot into this.
If this is but if it was a movie, they could have done a movie and you would have got a good action movie. But you wouldn't have gotten the detail of the characters and the story that you got out of this 8 episodes, 8 or 9 episodes of content they gave us that was phenomenal.
It's a great show. It's a lot of fun.
I said this on Media Chatter. I think it ended kind of abruptly. I think the last 2 episodes weren't as good as the first 6. But I really enjoyed it. What did you guys think? I mean, Tim, we haven't heard from you much. So Tim, what was your thoughts on Reacher?
I mean, pretty much the same thing. I love the cast. I thought the cast was great. The story that they told was fantastic. It was really well done. It was very compelling. I love the fact that we, had this, by appearance, big muscle bound dude, which, stereotypically would be like, oh, okay, so he's the muscle, he's dumb. But no, the dude was like super smart and, could think his way through things and, could also just absolutely kick ass in a fight up until the last episode. And just, but I mean, it was really great. It was good. I loved what they gave us with it, and I'm looking forward to the second season, which they already announced.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's plenty of content. We talk about this on Media Chatter as well, too. It's based on the series of books by Lee Child. And I think we said, was there 28
books?
Novels?
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. It's like, okay, so they have plenty of seasons they can do for this. So,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to more of that. If you guys want more detail on the show, I'd say go over to Media Chatter and listen to us talk about it there for an hour and 10 minutes.
Definitely very high recommendation, without question.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Definitely. Okay, Murderville. This is one is new to me, so who's going to tell me about Murderville?
Unless Tim saw it, I'll talk about it. I think Tim would like it. Okay.
I did not. But by the way, the last few weeks, the vast majority of my viewing was Winter Olympics. And
you've also been busy with work a little bit over the last couple of weeks, right?
And a lot of work stuff. I had a work trip. I had some other stuff. But I mean, Winter Olympics was the vast majority of the stuff that I watched. I'm a big Winter Olympics fan, especially hockey and some curling and skiing and some other things.
We would highly recommend that to viewers as well. Except
it's over.
Yeah.
But, hey, in 4 more years, we'll have another Winter Olympics. Summer Olympics, I'm not a huge fan of, but Winter Olympics I love. I'm a big winter sports person.
And hockey. And I'm surprised that I actually like watching curling. Like, that's actually my favorite winter Olympic sport.
Curling is freaking interesting.
I do like
the
watching
strategy
is amazing.
And the execution of it and stuff.
It truly is. A lot of people make fun of it, but I think it's because they haven't actually watched it and learned it. And because once you learn it, you're like, oh gosh, that's what they're trying to do. They're not just throwing these stones down the ice and knocking other ones out of the way like marbles. No. There's a reason why you're doing it, and there's a specific way that it's scored and all that. So without getting into that, it's just
the later matches where you got the medal matches and stuff where the best teams have now come to the end. You're watching you're like, there's no way they go. Oh my god! It's like how'd that put? Oh my god, how they do that? It's like wow, okay, these guys are really good.
Have you heard of the musical artist Jonathan Colton?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Kind of an internet sensation. Look for a song of his called "Curl." It's a rock song about curling. It's
all right.
Cute. Come on, baby, put the rock in the house. Because that's what they call the things are the rocks, and the house is the thing at the end.
The house, yep.
Yeah.
So anyway, Murderville.
So this is on Netflix, and it stars Will Arnett, who I'm hoping everybody here knows.
Okay, yep.
And he plays a police detective whose partner died 20 years ago or something. Like her desk is covered with cobwebs and like he left everything exactly the way it was and all that. Was married, I think still is married, but separated from the police chief. In every episode, she brings him a new partner to test out. Of course, he doesn't want a partner. And there's a new murder every week, and they investigate the murder. But the problem is the new partner they bring in doesn't have a script. So, first episode is Conan O'Brien. And he's the one who doesn't have a script, and they have to get through, and he has to solve the murder and do all of these wacky things. And, you know, goes in and talks to, there's one scene, I think,
I have to watch this, especially if it has Conan O'Brien in it.
You know,
Holy crap.
I should pull it up here and find out exactly. Give me like just a couple of seconds.
You know, the interesting thing about what you're talking about, Eric, this sounds so. I mean, when we were doing improv in person, we would do a scripted, unscripted thing where, you know, somebody has a script and you're trying to improv off what they're reading from lines in the play. You're like, okay.
So the guests, Conan O'Brien, Ken Jeong. And it's great when they have to like go in and talk to the crime boss and they've got the earpiece and then like,
I love Ken Jeong.
They have to answer questions that the mob boss, do you say you were from Philly? Where's that restaurant that was up on such and such a street? And then like Will Arnett's giving him answers. And so he has to say stuff back that like in a straight face without cracking up. And it's, or when they're dealing with the corpse whose face is like face down in a bowl of soup, they keep, you know, no, lift his face up again. And of course the corpse guy's trying to not like break character. And so Ken Jeong, Conan awesome. O'Brien, Sharon Stone.
Interesting. She's actually very funny. Like a lot of people don't realize that Sharon Stone is freaking funny because of the dramatic role she's been in. But she's
had really
funny.
Good comedic timing without ever coming across as overtly funny.
Yes. Which is generally the kind of comedy that I like. And I know, like, I love Conan O'Brien. He's completely the opposite end of that spectrum. But I do tend to like a little more like grounded, drier humor a lot of times. And
this has got a good mix. I mean, you've got
the
the wit of people like Conan O'Brien and Ken Jeong. You've got the straight wit of Sharon Stone. And to some extent, Annie Murphy from Schitt's Creek. But she's also a little more playful and a little more kind of like back and forth with the interactions and stuff. Then you have people who are completely lost, like Marshawn Lynch.
Really?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's wild.
And he's like, if you ever watch Clueless Gamer, get on YouTube and look for Clueless Gamer with Conan O'Brien. And it's Conan O'Brien who knows nothing about video games, sitting down and playing console video games and always has a guest host. And there's an episode with Marshawn Lynch and some other football players and stuff. It's really good. And then Kumail Nanjiani, he's in an episode. Yeah. It's really good. They're just little half-hour episodes, and it's light and fluffy and silly and stuff. But if you have any appreciation for especially for improv comedy and how tricky that can be.
Yeah.
It is fun.
It sounds fun.
It was stupid, like just stupid comedy, but it was fun. I think you'd like it. So I would highly recommend Murderville, again, on Netflix. And it's like, I don't know, 8 episodes maybe. Yeah.
Okay. Next up, another Apple TV Plus show that I want to start watching, Suspicion. Seen the trailer, it looks really good. This is done by the same people that brought us Homeland, I believe.
You had watched it. I feel like there's a lot of stuff on this list that I've seen that you guys haven't, and I feel bad now.
I started watching the first episode, but I haven't gotten very far in because I knew I wanted to watch it. I really enjoyed the Homeland series, which is done by the same people as this, and it looks really good. The premise is an abduction in the beginning, first episode, where there's 4 people that are suspected of being involved in this abduction, and they're all British, I guess, right? They were in New York at the same time, and that's as far as the trailer leads you to believe. So I don't know how in depth that gets, but it looks really good.
So. The person who was abducted was the son of Uma Thurman's character, who plays some, like, I don't know, Steve Jobs level corporate person. And I wasn't going to watch it. And then there were people complaining online about what a travesty it was that Uma Thurman is hardly in the series at all. And I'm like, sold. I'm there. All right. Literally that was what, well, she's not actually going to be in it. Then yeah, I'm going to watch it. It's good. It's deep, like the very few episodes of Homeland I've watched, which I liked. I just haven't gone back to it and need to someday. It's a slow burn, but it's very much kind of got that espionage feel to it, but with civilians, and you don't really know who's guilty, who's innocent, who's maybe guilty of something, but not guilty of everything, or are they guilty of more? So it's a plot heavy series, a lot of plot complexity, not the kind of thing you ever want to watch in the background. If you put this on one time as background noise, as you're doing other things or multitasking, you're either going to stop watching the series or you're going to have to watch that episode again. And the problem is the plot is deep and requires some focus, but it also, it's not like hanging on the edge of your seat cliffhanger sort of thing either. So if it's your type of show, it's done really well. And it's got Elizabeth Henstridge, is it? From Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
S.H.I.E.L.D. Yep.
And I like her. She's good. I don't recognize a lot of the other... There's some actors and actresses I recognize. She's the one name that I remember. It's good, though. I'd recommend it, but you've got to be into espionage type shows. And if you are, you'll love it. If you're not, or you don't have the patience for it, you're not going to stick with it. Not because the show's bad, but because the format just might not be your thing.
Okay. Another one here. Now, this is something I've watched recently that I think you mentioned a few weeks back, Eric. Archive 81.
You finished it, right? I have not.
I did.
I'm still maybe halfway through. No,
you haven't?
No.
Oh, good. Oh my God. Well, you should watch it. I mean, this got me riveted to watch it. And the first episode or so, I'm like, okay, this is intriguing. But by the third or fourth, I was really hooked and really wanted to see where this was going. It's got a supernatural feel to it. So there's a mystery going on. There's not really time travel, but there's some of that kind of
there's some
time
flashback
thing going on.
of things going on that get kind of complicated. The
only thing that it kind of took me out of it maybe about halfway through the series, because the premise is the main character is a video restorer that works in a museum of videotape history type thing. And he's watching this story that plays through these videos he's been restoring. And halfway through, I'm watching like, okay, these aren't just him watching. It's like you're not watching him watching the videotapes. Now it's like you're watching stuff that's not really on the videotape. And I'm like, okay, so it kind of breaks the thing of he's learning everything about this other character based on the video she was shooting. Because now it's like you're not watching video she shot. You're watching stuff that was...
You're also watching the in-between moments where she's not filming. Yeah, but does he know all of the things from those moments, though?
I don't know. Yeah, and I don't know. But that it felt like it was supposed to be a found footage type movie, and then they did more.
I'm kind of glad they did, because I think it works better not as just found footage.
It works really well, but for some reason, halfway through the series, my mind stopped and went, wait a minute, this is stuff that he shouldn't be knowing and seeing.
I didn't even think about that until you just said that, and now
now you will, so I ruined it for you. Yeah, I'm sorry. But it took me out of it for like a half an episode. I'm like, just forget it. I'll just watch it. And it was really good still. So, it's not horror really. It's more of a cerebral horror.
Psychological horror.
There's some scary stuff going on, and I was really happy with it. The ending wasn't as satisfying as I wanted it to be, but I think overall it was still worth seeing. It
seems to be a running theme. That Reacher, to some extent, Book of Boba Fett, though I would say that ended better than some of those others. And then another thing I'm going to talk about here in a few minutes.
Well, the endings to me, they haven't been horrible. They just didn't finish on the same high note that they started on. It's like, it's not like the show disappointed me, but the production quality was so good in some of these things where it was well written and well acted and well performed. You get to the very end, and it's like they got lazy in the writing and didn't really kind of give us everything.
I think they're better coming up with concepts now, and then they don't know where to go with the concepts.
Maybe.
You have to have the good concept up first to get people to start watching. And then when you hook them, you don't know where to take them.
There you go.
When you have a really good ending, but not a good beginning, nobody watches.
Right. So Tim, you got to watch Archive 81. I think you should.
It sounds really compelling. I mean, I like psychological thriller stuff.
And I think, like, I'm not into supernatural stuff at all. And I still liked this. And I know you're a little more favorable to that genre than I am. So
yeah, yeah, I can be if it's done properly.
And I would say this
I can be.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
For the most part, yeah. Okay, I know nothing about this next one, Cat Burglar.
I'll be brief. Netflix has done some choose your own adventure stuff. Bandersnatch from the Black Mirror series, phenomenal. And then they've done some kid stuff like Puss in Boots from the Shrek movies, a couple of other things. This is kind of a throwback to like the old Hanna-Barbera, Looney Tunes kind of slapsticky cartoon characters. So you have a cat, it's called Cat Burglar, and you have a cat who's a cat burglar who is trying to break into a museum to steal this priceless painting. There is a single security guard played by a short dog. Kind of reminds me of Droopy a little bit, but not personality-wise. Anyway.
The stereotyping in this is really bothering me. I mean, not all cat burglars are cats.
No,
I just...
But I think it's good because the cat's probably the smart one and the dog's probably the, so one. Right?
You would think so until you get the cat killed.
Oh, okay.
So it's not so much a choose your own adventure as much as it is there's an action scene, and during the action scene you have a timer and you have to guess 3 trivia questions. And so they will put up like a category sort of thing, like types of cheeses, and they'll put 2 things up on the screen and you have to move left or right to the one that's a type of cheese. There's a ton of different categories. I never got the same group of questions again, but there are maybe 5 or 6 sequences through the story where you have to do this. And then if you succeed and get the painting at the end, in the final scene, you'll notice that when it's put up on the wall at the museum that the cat burglar then sells it to, there are spots for other pictures. So you can go through and play again. Each of the different segments.
But what do cheeses have to do with the action scenes?
That's an example of one of the trivia questions. I'll come back to that. I'm trying to think of some examples of some of the other ones. Some of them were corny and some were, I don't know. Each of these different segments where he's like got to scale over the wall to get in, or he's got to disable the security cameras to then enter into the building, or then he's got to get through like the ancient history section of the museum all the way up to the very end where the painting is. There are multiple takes for each of these. So there's like 6 or 7 different versions of the confrontation in the ancient history area. 5 or 6 different versions where he has to sneak into the security hut to cut the camera feeds. So as you go through, there's a lot of replayability. Most of the questions are really, really simple, and like a lot of them, a reasonably intelligent 8-year-old could probably get through this. Then you get some, like one of them was weapons a ninja would use. And you had nunchucks or upchucks. Ninjas don't really use nunchucks either, but okay, it's the nunchucks. And then there's another one that is equally as stupid and idiotic. And then it gets to the third one and it gives me 2 words I've never heard. I've watched a lot of ninja movies. I've had a lot of G.I. Joe action figures. I've been around ninjas since the peak of their popularity in the 80s. I have a lot of friends who actually do real martial arts, not ninjutsu, but like I'm more than a passing familiarity with this. I've never seen these 2 words before. So you get these questions that are ridiculously easy, and then you get one that's like impossibly impossible. So it was weird. And then, so it looks like it's maybe designed for kids, but then you get like types of clickbait, and you'll get a couple of different options. And then one of them is like nude pictures. And I'm like, well, no, wait a minute. I don't want my, young preteen kid trying to figure out whether that's good clickbait or not. So like maybe that's not a good one. One of the questions was good school field trips. And one was like a pencil factory or the morgue. And as I'm going to hit the button for the morgue, I'm like, wait a minute, they probably want it to be pencil factory.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of relative. I mean,
and one of them was like, I don't know, the beach or Mars. And I'm like, well, hell yeah, Mars.
Yeah,
Mars.
Right.
Let's
go to Mars.
Some of the scenes where, their dog gets decapitated several times. Vultures are picking at the decapitated corpse in one scene. Like there are moments where, and it's still in that old style of animation. It's not like blood necessarily, but there's some violence there that I don't think is necessarily good for kids either. So 95% of the questions are pretty much designed for kids. And yet there's content in here that's definitely not for kids. So I don't even know like who to recommend this to, but I wanted to bring it up so people, if you've got kids and you think this is for your kids, play through it a few times first yourself. Just a little public service announcement there, because
which is probably good advice for almost anything you want your kids
and yet,
to watch,
Lou,
really, when you come right down to it.
How many parents do you think actually take that advice? Not many.
Not many, probably. I mean, remember, I have cats, so I'm held harmless here, but
that's great advice, but
and it's funny you mentioned that in I don't look at things the same way that a parent would, obviously, because I don't have kids, but I'll watch a show like Reacher, and along with whatever episode it was, all of a sudden it was that one of the characters takes her top off.
Episode 3.
Oh yeah, okay, this is streaming. I'm like,
27 minutes, 14 seconds.
I mean, it didn't bother me. It's not like I'm going, oh my God, no, I'm not gonna watch that. I'm like, ooh, okay. But I'm like, I totally didn't expect that. I'm like,
I didn't expect it either. I'm like, wow, that was. She just walked right in there.
Pleasantly surprised. Yeah. Pleasantly surprised, yeah. But it was like, that's the kind of thing where it's like, in today's world, it's like it's not network, so it's there.
Well, so Friday.
Gotta watch it. Gotta watch out for that.
Is it this coming Friday, or did it already come out this weekend? The new Batman movie.
Oh,
okay. It's coming out this coming weekend. And based on some of the scenes in the trailer, like I think it's rated PG-13, I think. But
I think it's also pushing the boundaries of PG-13, because it looks
if it
pretty
weren't
hardcore.
The pandemic, my son would be wanting to see it opening night. But I need to go see it before, and his mom as well needs to go see it before he does.
Mm-hmm.
And yet it's PG-13, and he's, weeks away from turning 13. So he's like, well, I've seen other PG-13 stuff. I've seen the Marvel movies, and saw Star Wars Episode 3. Mm-hmm. This is okay, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, PG-13 none of those things mean what they meant 20 years ago.
No,
I mean,
and the thing is, it depends why they hold those categories. I mean, there's all these different criteria, and for one movie it could be A, but for another movie it could be B, and depending on the maturity of your kids and what they're exposed to and what they're not exposed to, A might be fine, but B really might not be acceptable.
So violence and stuff,
and there is also that range. I mean, something can be PG-13, but barely make that out of PG because it had one little instance of something. Yeah, another movie can be PG-13 and be pushing the upper boundaries because it basically does everything.
It's like one thing away from being R, but it's there.
Well, my concern with Batman is the trailers. Right, there's this one scene where Batman's just punching the crap out of somebody. So in an R-rated movie, this isn't R. There's no blood. Okay.
Right.
But you're looking at the trailer, and like he's punching this guy a few times, and the guy's gone limp. And then he kind of like looks up at the other bad guys, and he just continues wailing on this guy. And I'm like, whoa, hey, you're supposed to be the good guy here. You're the hero that the kids are supposed to look up to. And like the dude's pretty much unconscious and you're sitting there just pummeling him still. So I'm like, do I want my son watching that? And that's just from the trailer. So, and I mean, I tend to be a little more liberal than most when it comes to that kind of thing. But yeah, so when you have kids, it is a little tricky, and you do have to watch everything in advance. And I get why some people don't, because they feel like they can't because there's too much. But hey, you've got kids at your job.
Right.
Do it.
Yeah, but to me, it's I find it interesting that, and I'd love to see if somebody's done a paper on this somewhere. I'm sure that somebody has done a white paper or something. But what has changed for what was acceptable to be rated PG or PG-13 or R back 20 years ago versus now?
What was the evolution?
Because there's stuff on TV now that we wouldn't have seen in a PG-13 movie 20 years ago.
Do you remember when they wanted to give? So Eddie Murphy, a comedian very popular in the 80s and 90s. Did a stand-up special, and they released the stand-ups. He was so popular, they released a stand-up special in theaters. It was called Eddie Murphy Raw. And they wanted to give it an X rating. And they wanted to give it an X rating because he dropped the F-bomb twice during the entire stand-up skit. Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
Wow. Yeah.
And now we get TV episodes where they drop it like 4 times in 30 minutes.
Yeah, it's bizarre. I mean, even down to the point where it's like, there was TV shows on when I was a kid that, the married couple slept in separate beds because they really weren't married on TV show. And now it's like, then you forward 20, 30 years later, there's, teenagers having sex on TV shows, not showing it, but, implying that they were. I'm like, okay, that's
wasn't
totally
Leave It to
different thing.
Beaver the first series where they had a married couple like in a bed together? Or am I thinking it was something? Leave It to Beaver did the first. Maybe it was the first one that showed a bathroom with a toilet in it. There was some like really racy thing that they did that like nobody else had done before.
But like you bet to Lucy, I Love Lucy show. Yeah. They had separate beds, But
that's why they didn't have kids.
But that's the way TV was. That's right.
Let me explain to you how that works.
Well, there was the dirtiest words ever said on television in Leave It to Beaver, but we're not going to talk about that in the show because it's not rated for that. Anyway, where are we?
And so we just got last week. They gave us what the TV rating is going to be for the Moon Knight series over on Disney Plus. And there's been a lot of talk like this thing's going to be darker, it's going to be more brutal, it's going to be more violent. There's going to be a lot more intensity in it, which we've certainly got a sense from in the trailers that we've gotten. But then there's also this, but it's on Disney Plus. How exactly are they going to do this? How far are they going to push this envelope on Disney Plus? So it actually still falls within the TV-14 rating, which is basically a PG-13 equivalent to movies for streaming services. All the other Marvel shows were also TV-14. The presumption is they kind of skewed a little bit lighter within TV-14, and that Moon Knight is going to skew much more pushing the boundaries toward TVMA. Which we haven't seen Disney Plus do yet. But, I mean, there seems to be a lot of desire for Disney to center their stuff on Disney Plus. They have Hulu right now as this repository for stuff that they don't want on Disney Plus. I'm thinking at some point eventually I would just like to see Disney Plus do a portal, where parents have to put in a passcode or something in order to access the stuff, to keep it all on one streaming service. Let me
tell you,
which is what they do
kids
in other countries.
Figure out how to enter a passcode that the parents use in order to get into stuff.
I understand that, but it basically becomes beside the point. I mean, it's okay. Hey, the service is doing what they can, and then it's up to the parents to actually enforce that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
A couple of things real quick. The Peacemaker finale was really, really good. We talked about finales that were not good and were disappointing. The Peacemaker one was good. Have you guys seen? You still haven't watched that, have you? You guys, like, for real, I would only keep bringing it up because it's that good. And I'm with you on the John Cena thing, I promise.
Oh, you're not with me enough on the John Cena.
I'm closer than you think. But this show, I would still recommend.
And I also didn't really like Suicide Squad movie, so it was good, but it wasn't like I'm not going to watch it.
It's still not like the Suicide Squad movie.
But the character's there,
yeah.
I'm like, I didn't care for him there either. But anyways, yeah.
Nobody likes the character in the show either. So, The Woman in the House Across the Street from the Girl in the Window. Did you guys ever watch or finish that?
Haven't finished it yet, but
haven't started
once we are watching it, we're going to continue.
I will just say I was disappointed in the finale. Like,
thanks.
Sorry. Mentioned that there was one more show in this episode where the finale I thought kind of sucked. I felt like they changed gears in the finale, and I was like, I was very disappointed. We'll put it that way. Space Force season 2. John Malkovich.
Nope. Yeah, I want to see it, but haven't.
That's all I got. I've got a bunch of other little things, but yeah, we're running long.
Okay. One last thing quickly, not TV or movie related. I started playing Horizon Forbidden West. Like it. New exclusive title for the PS4.
Is that the sequel to, what is it, Horizon Zero Dawn? Oh, I played that one.
Yep.
That was amazing.
Yep. It's really good. The graphics are amazing. The mechanics feel a lot like one of the Star Wars ones that was out recently.
Jedi Fallen Order?
With Cal Kestis. Yeah. A lot of the same gameplay mechanics, but it's good. I really enjoy it. I'm playing through it now.
The first one was amazing. One of the best games to have come out in recent history. I mean, even sight unseen with the sequel, that would be an automatic recommendation in my eyes to anybody with a console. I'm glad you're enjoying it. It sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It is. It's good. And that's about it for today. So,
Eric,
take us home.
That's going to do it for this episode of Random Chatter. Tune in next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. At approximately 8 p.m. Eastern, we will be doing another episode of Force Chatter. We'll probably be talking about Kenobi. There's one other thing Star Wars related I was trying to think of that I knew that we needed to cover coming up, and then I had lost what it was. But we do have some things that we're going to be discussing through the spring as we get forward into Celebration and the release of Kenobi. So check that out next Sunday night. We are also going to be bringing back our news show. We still have to talk about bringing back Trailer Breakdown too. Our news show is going to be coming back soon as well, though possibly in a little bit different format. And then also in another different format, Media Chatter, Tuesday nights. We mentioned that earlier, discussing TV shows now as well. We already discussed Reacher, which we mentioned this episode. And next up is Inventing Anna. I think kind of want to do Severance after that, but I think it's going to be a little while yet before that finishes. So yeah.
Right.
But that's still going strong every Tuesday night at about 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. And be sure to go to randomchatter.com/Discord. Join our Discord server, hang out with us there. And if you're not watching this on YouTube, head over to youtube.com/randomchatter. Hit the subscribe and like buttons and leave your comments in the fields below here and let us know what you think of the stuff we covered today. Or if there's stuff that you've watched, do you think that we should cover? We would like to know. We're always looking for new stuff to watch. So that's going to do it for this episode of Random Chatter. We will see you again in a week. Until then, take care.